All right, good evening. The time is now 6:30. I'd like to call this meeting to order. If you would all please join me in standing.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Begin with a roll call. Linda Starkis. Present. Sean Peterson. Present. Terry Stallworth. Here. Dean Gorman. John Cavella. Here. Linda Fedor. Here. Stephanie Walsh. Here. Lisa Carrot. Here. Ed is not here. All right, our first order of business is the minutes from the June 18th meeting. Are there any corrections that have to be made at this time?
I move we accept the minutes.
There's a spelling error
Okay.
on the recording secretary. I believe his name is spelled. Is it, or am I wrong?
No, it's spelled right.
It's a missing I.
Are there any other corrections that need to be made?
I move we accept the minutes with that correction.
Okay, the motion has been made by Don to accept the minutes with the stated correction. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made by Don, seconded by Lynn. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of approving the minutes from June 18th, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Our first order of business, that motion carries. Our first order of business is to review and accept the presentation of the town year-end financial report. That should be the first piece that you have. I have one question to start. We exceeded our extended revenue, anticipated revenues by $858,000 change.
Prior to audit. This is all
Prior to
prior,
audit.
this is not your
Okay.
final year-end statement.
All right, so we don't know what that exact number is.
But as of now, yes.
When do we expect to have that number?
After the audit.
I'm sorry.
After the audit,
Okay.
yeah. There's many adjusting journal entries that have to be done.
I'm sorry, I can't quite hear you.
Many adjusting journal entries have to be done
Okay.
pertaining to the audit. So when you get the audit, that's your final representation of the year. This is just prior.
So were there overages in some of these accounts, looks like, possibly?
You mean the revenue?
No, in just general.
Yeah, some there was. So listen, I
So
did
you did line item
some
transfers?
line item transfers, and there still were some overages, like engineering, I think, was one of them.
Yep.
NECOG was another one. NECOG is tricky because we pay based on the number of runs to Dick Kimball or Bacchus, and it's the paramedics. So if we have more, ambulance runs than what they're anticipating, per budget, then that represents the overage.
So we do line item transfers to reconcile those? Or is that already been done?
What we do now is that when I give this to the auditors, they'll question certain lines, and then I give them the explanation, and then we just move forward.
Okay.
When do you start giving information to the auditors?
So it's August now, in September.
I'm going to say everything should be reconciled by September.
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
Board of Ed.
Yeah, September.
So that's why there's a lot of high numbers.
Yes, yeah, like an example, telephone. Telephone is over because I became aware in this fiscal year that there's 2 telephone contracts. So I don't know what we're doing about that. I don't think you can get out of either one of them. So,
What's the length of those contracts?
another year?
I didn't see
Oh, another, one of them's in one more year, and then we're out.
Legal fees is another item.
I'm moving to have a lot of the available ones.
Yep,
Town hall, town clerk, just bigger ones, town clerk, registrar, building and grounds, for instance.
yep.
That doesn't look like they were all expended.
They weren't all expended, no. All the invoices that came in for the month of June are all posted. So this is going to be beneficial, not going over budget. We got all the invoices in, they're all posted.
So pre-order, the
Yep.
town was about 1.2 million,
Beneficial, right?
and
Yes.
the school department was 981 for reconciliation and everything.
Yes, correct.
So about,
2.2.
quick question. On the pool revenues, which I already knew this was going to happen, why did you figure 38,000 for revenues for the pool?
Because we
End
said,
up getting 91,000. Because you've been forecasting 90K every year.
Yeah.
Why'd you drop down to 38?
Because at that time, Mark wanted, that was the year that Mark wanted to have that receivable account for the pool. And the board members were questioning him on it. So what happened is I just put all the money into revenue. That receivable account was never created. So that reflects all the money that was taken in.
Any other questions?
You did pretty good on town clerk fees this year.
Yeah, that's the conveyance tax. So as properties sell, we get a conveyance tax to the town clerk. And we never really can estimate how many houses are going to be sold, but that percentage was high. So it was very beneficial to her.
or larger properties too.
Well, yeah, because of real estate.
Yep.
Any other questions? All right, if there are no other questions, I'll entertain a motion that we accept this presentation as been delivered to us.
I'll make a motion to accept the presentation.
All right, motion is made to accept the presentation by Sean. Do I have a
I'll say.
seconded by Don? Any other discussion? All those in favor of accepting this financial report presentation, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? That motion passes. The next item on our agenda is the first financial report for this coming fiscal year.
As you can see on this report, the only state revenue you receive as of now is town aid.
They usually come, what, in a couple of months, right?
Yeah,
What,
July,
is it-
August,
that was
like
quarterly?
September. Like September, October is when you start seeing the state.
On recreation, we received that much money already.
Yeah, so what that represents is, remember they had that receivable account, the 1123 account we talked about last fiscal year? There's substantial money in there, so I moved a portion of 50,000 over to here. Because we're trying to, you know, bring the revenue back to offset the mill rate. So 50,000 of that represents that. You can see town clerk fees is high again, already be at 47,000.
Has Uline filed for their building permit yet?
We
it's-
got that the other day.
Yeah, it's not reflected here, but they did give us a check for the first go-around for $883,000.
883?
883. That's the first phase. There's still another phase coming.
How much was in a rec account total?
Recreation, oh, the 1123? It fluctuates, so last I looked at it, maybe 180,000.
Planning and zoning's got a pretty big chunk of money dropped in there already. Where did that come
Uline.
Was it
Line.
He was Uline.
from? Town clerk too?
town clerk? Was conveyance tax.
Conveyance mostly.
What's the billboard lease look like?
Billboard lease? I
Is
don't
that the
think,
one that was shot down?
yeah.
They're still talking about that in planning and zoning. There'll be a presentation next month. If that is to be something that gets passed via text amendment change, it still has to go in front of the public for their vote because of the way the charter is written. Yep. You'll see the same thing with the cell tower rental.
Yeah.
Yep.
Same thing, what, we can't hear anything that's being discussed.
Okay. The question was the billboard lease, and also if you take a look at the rental for the cell tower.
Right?
So those are still coming forward because the billboard lease has to go through a text amendment change for planning and zoning, which we anticipate would happen next month. And then after that, we still would have to go in front of the town for a town meeting to approve or deny the lease for a billboard. So that's why that's listed right now as 0. The other thing is down below, you'll see cell tower rental.
Yeah.
We didn't anticipate that because we thought we would be selling the cell tower land. And so that hasn't gone through yet either because we're still, first of all, we're still in negotiation with the company as to what the final numbers are. If we get that agreed upon, we still have to come to a town meeting to vote upon, approval or denial of that.
When's that contract up for the cell tower? Current deadline was it?
It's one of those contracts where you can get out of any time. It has another year and a half.
A year and a half?
Any other questions? Not,
I'm taking a sick day at the Senate, but police is already paid out.
Yeah, July 1st.
Have all the positions been filled in the rec department?
They're still looking for the person for part-time. It's a 3 to 8 position, so they're still looking for that.
any other questions?
Have you hired an IT guy yet?
We have a contract with the current company, Protocol Network, so that's what we're doing with that money. The only position we're looking for and still are looking at is trying to find someone to be a town engineer. Very difficult this time. We're offering what we think is a fair number of 120,000 plus benefits. We've contracted, well, I've contracted with ZipRecruiter, and so far all we've had is hits from India, Europe, who want to do remote, and one gentleman who is from the central part of the state who hasn't been an engineer for 5 years. So that's all we've gotten so far.
You have a contract on file in the clerks with the IT?
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear you.
You have a contract on file in Diane's office for the IT company?
Sure.
Oh.
Yep.
the labor negotiation as far as the contingency with the contract, correct? You got money?
There's still two unions which have not, we haven't come to an agreement with. One was police, the other was highway.
Do they have any more contracts coming up next year?
Nope. Thank goodness.
When do you need to pay the American Legion for the ambulance service?
That's a good question. I have to contact them and find out. You do it one lump sum, right?
What are you talking about?
The ambulance payout.
The ambulance, yeah, 80,000.
I have a meeting with him soon, so I'll contact and find out.
It's not the Haskell surprise or he's more of it.
Well, we're supposed to be getting financial statements, I haven't gotten any.
Yeah. September 9th, so I'll ask him to bring us September 9th.
Department of Health,
We pay that 2 times a year.
twice a year?
Yeah, yep. And then Meals on Wheels, we haven't been invoiced for that yet, which we should have.
Are we still with the Department of Health up in Brooklyn?
Yes,
Currently?
yes, I did, just as an update, I did ask again to Uncas, and while again, they would like to have us, they don't have enough staff. That's one of the biggest problems with the health districts around the state of Connecticut. They just can't find staffing to accommodate.
Have they improved in Brooklyn at all?
In service, they have a new director that just started about 2 weeks ago. So we have to have a meeting with them, which we will have soon, and we'll ask all those questions. We want to have numbers to correlate to how good we're doing, and I haven't seen it yet.
You said we're still negotiating with the police department on
Correct.
contracts?
Yes,
But I see that if available, it's...
out of the contingency monies.
Yeah.
Yep.
Have we hired more police?
Yes. Last I heard, we're at our 21.
We're at our 21 again, because I know we lost
One.
one. Okay.
Police are over on education already?
Yeah, so that means that there was another person they probably hired, not anticipating a degree.
All of us?
Yeah. Someone might have left without and hired someone with. I'm assuming that.
I was thinking that was like training education.
Oh, no, it's a payout if you have like a degree.
Any other questions questions on this July report? If not, I will entertain a motion that we accept this financial report for July.
Make a motion, we accept the financial report. for
Okay,
July.
we have a motion made by Linda to accept the financial report for July. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion made by Linda and seconded by Stephanie. Any other questions or discussion? All right, if not, all those in favor of approving this financial report, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? All right. Next item on our agenda is the review of the financial report from the Board of Education. I was a little surprised that it's only 3 pages this week.
A few different items. Good evening, everyone. Happy summer. I'd like to introduce our new business manager, Mrs. Courtney Brannon. Mrs. Brannon is a Plainfield resident, has spent 3 years as the school business manager for Sterling Public Schools and was the assistant business manager in Griswold prior to that. She joined our staff really only about 2 weeks ago. Has done outstanding work since then, has already been in touch with Cal Connors and Markham and has started work on the audit. We're our team together for that. I can tell you our state reporting will be done by the end of the month. She's had a lot to bring together in the last 2 weeks. Thus, we tried to keep the report sweet and simple and present you what we presented to the board. But certainly, we're here to answer any questions that you have.
We're competing with sound, so I didn't quite catch your name.
Courtney Brandon.
Courtney,
Brandon.
how do you spell your last name?
Brannon.
If you could, when the meeting's over, give me your email address so that I could include you on all correspondence.
Absolutely.
All right, do we have any questions? Is the liability insurance paid out one time at the beginning of the year, is that how that works?
No, we do current insurance in the future quarterly.
Okay. Because on this, you're showing, it looks like, unless I'm misreading it, it's showing a negative on the percent budget, minus 1.2, 1.92. You could just speak to that.
You're talking about last fiscal year?
Yeah, the report that we have right in front of us.
Yep, there's last year.
This is last year, this is a finalized then?
There's both. If you look at the top, I highlighted I guess you can't see the highlighting since it's not
Okay.
printed in color, but there's 2 different fiscal years.
He was looking at 24, 25.
So for the new fiscal year, what I've been working on with my team is making sure that any encumbrances that we are going to expect invoices for the entire year. So if we have an invoice that we pay quarterly, if we have an invoice that we pay monthly, that we're encumbering that amount that we're expected to pay within that fiscal year. That way it gives us a better picture throughout the year of what we have left as a budget balance. So come January, if we're paying an invoice quarterly, and we've already paid 2 invoices, I'll have the other 2 invoices already encumbered, so that way we know what to expect. That 521 for the liability insurance, I don't know what else is put in there, and why that account's over, but I can.
I can send an answer to Mr. Rock.
that the same thing with like workers' comp, like a 4%, 4.5%?
Are you on last fiscal year or the new fiscal
Along
year?
with 24, 25.
And what line?
240? I'm sorry.
I don't know that line.
I'm sorry, that was 240 was retirement. No? 250, workers' comp. Sorry, the writing's so small, it's hard to say.
So for that, there is still an encumbrance on that account. So we still have, so yeah, the 209,000 is encumbered. So that's what we expect to spend over the course of this fiscal year. So that gives that account balance remaining of 13,000.
All right, so in order to be up to date on things, we have to go to the other range to date. Instead, I'll look at the end of the line.
The range to date is going to be all the expenditures within the month of July and August to date.
That's to this date.
Yes. And that will match the dates on the top right, from the 2 dates.
Is there a way to change that slightly? So I like looking down the end of the line and see what's left in that budget as the year goes on. It looks like at this point there's nothing left there, or very little left there, but really there is. It's almost all stuff.
Well, we
If we've encumbered something, Mr. Peterson, it's because we've been notified that we're going to be billed that.
Guaranteed,
yes.
no surprises.
So I'll speak to that because we've set up a piece for this. One of the things that we didn't do as well last year that Brennan's brought in as best practice is we fully encumbered all the salaries of every paraprofessional, every teacher, every person we have. We've encumbered them as though they're going to use exactly only their allotted sick days and only their full days. We will, during the year, lose some staff. We will, during the year, have some people who use up all their sick days and have to take unpaid days. When we get to that point, you'll see, particularly in the non-certified staff, those encumbrances change, just based on turnover in staff.
Because this is kind of new little format that we're looking at, if we look at the one that's fiscal year 23-24, you're still looking at some encumbrance from that year that hasn't been paid out yet. With that in mind, you're also showing a balance of $143,000, which you anticipate as being underexpended.
Yes, so at this time, we still have 32 open purchase orders of construction projects that are not completed yet, items that have not been received, or services that are not completed yet.
And they're not encumbered.
They are encumbered.
They are encumbered.
Yeah, so that's part of that encumbrance column of the 379,000. So those are all projects that are encumbered that we expect to be reconciled by the end of August.
Okay.
And right now, we are still working on reconciling our grants and our accounts. So once those are fully reconciled, then that budget balance number will be confirmed.
One of the first things Ms. Brennan did when she came on was she tackled open purchase orders.
You'll have to.
So sorry. I mean, it's easier for me to speak when I stand. One of the things that Ms. Brennan did when she first came on is we sat down and we did every open purchase order, and then we looked at every communication from any outside vendor that had gone to the previous business manager. When we did that, one of the things that occurred, we anticipated being under 100,000, was that a PO on a student, an outplaced student, that had not filled the full year, over 60,000 was released in the month of June. So that was one of the big pieces of a special needs student that we had anticipated the full tuition. Remember, we pay those tuitions all summer long and end of the year. They bill us on those pieces and that was released. So that's been the largest jump. Everything else there, we anticipate will be close. I think Kelly said it very well. There's some projects that come in slightly higher, there's some projects that come in slightly lower. But when we take a look at where we are right now, that's very close.
Any other questions? There will probably be some additional questions as you go through the next portion of the presentation that will be directly related to what we're seeing here. All right, do we have any other questions on this financial report? All right, if there are no other questions on this financial report, I will entertain a motion that we accept it as presented.
Move to accept.
Motion to accept this financial report as presented. We have seconded by Don. Any other discussion? All right, none. All those in favor of accepting this presentation, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? All right, that motion carries. All right, at this time, I would like to welcome you to the podium or wherever you choose to stand. Superintendent Paul Brett to give us an update on some new legislation or update on current legislation or...
Thank you. I've put together a memo for the Board of Finance, and is there anyone who would like it as well? Which speaks to Section 7 of Public Act 2425. Every year after the session closes in late May, early June, we start getting indications of what laws have passed. A lot of times we won't know until the implementer bill, which actually follows the session, goes through. Sometimes we get notification when a public act is signed by the government. What's on the front page here is the change of language in Public Act 2425. It's specific to school reserve funds, or what we might call the 2% set-aside fund. I've highlighted in red the key change of language in the Act, and that's the change that changes that beginning fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024, a local Board of Education may deposit into a non-lapsing account any unexpended funds from the prior fiscal year with the budget appropriate for education. This is a change at the state level from the Board of Finance depositing the funds. It actually gives the Board of Ed the power to deposit the funds without the Board of Finance. When I got this information, I sent it to our attorneys at Shipman and Goodwin because we do have an agreement with the town. If you take a look at the second page was the execution of the public change. This was our attorney's opinion based on the language. Our attorney's opinion is that any existing funds that were deposited in the Education Reserve Fund prior to May 21st, 2024, when it was signed under law, exist under the agreement. However, any funds moving forward are not restricted by the limits of the agreement. So those were those two pieces. The third page there is the actual bill, where I highlighted in green the section that they're speaking to. It's on page 13 of the 43-page bill. Sometimes these bills are quite large. And then the very last page was something that I would have sent to the Board of Finance in July. However, I don't believe we had a July meeting, which is that when the audit was complete so late last year, there was a difference between the projected amount of funds in surplus from the Board of Ed and the actual amount of surplus funds. That difference was $40,133. The Board of Finance had previously voted to move the initial projected surplus prior to the audit. That seemed timely at that time based on our anticipated timelines of the completion of the audit. However, those timelines weren't met. So it requires a vote by the Board of Finance to move, because that money is prior to May 21st, 2024, it actually requires a vote from the Board of Finance to move that $40,133 into the capital improvement non-lapsing account. So I'm asking the Board of Finance to act on that motion at your discretion. Kelly, did I say that
We have
correctly?
to add this to the agenda.
We have to have a motion to add it in. And since this is not technically special. What do you currently have in the 2% set aside?
Presently, we're under 50,000 in the 2% set aside.
There's more than that.
Is there more than that?
Yeah, I would have to get the bank statement, but yeah.
I can bring that to the next meeting if you need me to.
Yeah, we reconciled the 2% down here, so then we reconciled the 2% down here on a monthly basis, so I can tell you what's in the general ledger, but I don't have it.
What precipitated this change in legislation?
I became aware of it afterwards.
Okay.
So it was in a legal briefing I was sent.
I mean, to me, it's somewhat concerning. But if it's a legislation that's passed, that means it's not, unless I misunderstand it, it supersedes anything that we have as a town ordinance.
For any new money.
Or our policy.
We just have to do a better job of budget, that's all.
What's that?
We just have to do a better job of budget. Because, you know, carrying $100,000 every time we turn around and look for special
Yeah.
slush funds.
And I've mentioned this to you, I just think it's, anytime you need $10,000 for a special project, I don't think you need to be running to the Board of Finance, but I'm also concerned that this becomes, I'm not sure what the term I'm looking for. I think it could become a sore spot if it's not handled properly.
I agree completely. I think the Board of Ed needs to look at this legislation as well and develop guide rails around it. There's going to be discussions around those pieces. Right now, we've only used the reserve fund for capital expenses.
Right.
And I've talked to you about them every time I've come here. So Shepherd Hill, the air conditioner on the gym, we've had some discussions of. The latest surprise was that we have a $6,800 bill because a storm drain outside of Plainfield Central School just broke this summer, and we had to get it fixed prior to buses being able to go through the area. So I had to greenlight the work because we are 1 week and 2 days, or actually 1 week. 1 week from students arriving on campus.
So if the numbers make sense to me, then right now, we're in a position that we have to make a decision on $40,000. But,
Only table to the next one.
what's that?
Only table to the next one.
Yeah, but the Board of Ed has already made a decision on $52,000, is that correct?
I'm not sure I understand the question. The Board of Ed.
On this report, let's see if I can.
The early amount of 13,000, you talking about the 13,000 they got in the middle of the school year?
No, I'm not.
Oh, the 52,000, we prepaid the pension. When
Okay, all right,
that's prepaying the pension. That was something that I discussed here to make sure that the full pension contribution came to be. We made an early contribution to the pension.
Okay, right. So that had none, okay, my misunderstanding. Had nothing to do with the 2%.
No, there's 400,000 still to be contributed to the pension this year. I'm comfortable if you table it. I'm not asking for a motion at this time. I wanted to bring it to the Board of Finance as I would have brought it in July.
Is it town
Well, I
attorney
think-
looking into this? Is it worth having them look into this, or are we going to go with this?
No, this is a state legislature, so
Yeah,
We just need to figure out how it's going to be handled.
Yeah, we're kind of doing whatever the state says. I do have a quick question, though, whether you're taking this on for tonight or tabling to the next meeting, is it possible to get a definition of where that 40,133 came from so that they can make it properly in a motion?
Yes, I can do that. I can talk about the section of the audit and all that.
Well, budgeting's not an easy process anyway. Are there any other questions about this?
Just disappointment.
Yeah.
They've taken away the Board of Finance's ability to oversee the finances of the town.
Mr. Peterson, if I could add to that, this could change in a year. Things seem to change at the state quite often.
The problem is they've taken away the checks and balances. It irritates me every time we do that. The reason they created these things was for checks and balances, and they're taking away from us. I'm not comfortable with that.
No, neither am I.
You need a motion to table that for discussion?
There's no action yet, so you don't have to table anything.
Actually, we would have had to have a motion to vote on that.
Okay.
So since we never made a motion to vote on the 40,000, we can add it for next month. All right, but regarding this report, are there any other questions? This is rather concerning. We've had this, in the years that I've been on the board, it's been an annual discussion. What do we do with the 2% set aside? And I know several years ago, it was a very, what would you call that, Gary? The one where it was quite a bit of money. Yeah. I think it was like $800,000. A couple of years ago it was. Yeah. And it took us several months to get through that process. So, obviously, it's a state legislature matter, and there's nothing we can do about it. But I think Sean has a good point. It takes away a little bit of some checks and balances. But at the same time, I wouldn't want you to have to come here every month, every time that we need to get a toilet fixed. Something like that. But
You never did.
was that?
You never did. You didn't have to come here for a toilet.
No, but
It was when they have budget for that stuff.
all right. If there are no other questions regarding this, we don't have any action we need to take. We can just listen. So at this time, I will open up the floor for citizens' participation. If anybody would like to address the board, feel free to do so now.
Why does Sean look right at me?
That's okay, I'm
I
ready to
don't
turn
get
the
it.
camera to you.
Wow.
And you are?
Scott Shaw with 35 Sterling Road, Moosup. Wow. I'm changing course a little bit now that I've heard some of these numbers coming out. So, did I hear that right, that the town is in excess of $1.2 million for last year's?
Tentative. We're still,
Complete audit.
believe me, I got 2 big invoices the other day that I didn't know.
I'm not
okay?
saying that.
So
But it's just,
This is what I've talked about during the budget season, and Sean said it now with the schools. We need tighter budgets. You see what's going on right now, everybody's electric bills. I'm fine, I'm on solar, so I didn't get hit with this extra little tax the government wanted to put in. But I look at somebody like my daughter with 3 kids. She gets her electric bill with the $137 charge on it. So her bill went from $240 last month. She has a pool and all that. So there was some of that. But she went to $481. And it's not gonna, so that $137 on her bill is not going away. So next year when the budget comes up, and we start talking about we need more money, and people know there's an excess, so we'll say that between both places, it comes down to 1.2 million. You guys reconcile your stuff and you come up with $1 million. 1.2 is close to $1 million, right?
1.4 is now.
So 1.4 is the mill. So that, I mean, that's just so far, and again, things happen. There's good budgeting that's gone on, there's good cost controls that have gone on, the tax collector did an awesome job collecting taxes, but when you're sitting here as a taxpayer going, holy crap, they just got an extra $2 billion, or possibly 1.4 million from the year before, and then you want to come to budget season and you want to tell me you want to raise taxes by $1 mil, 2 mils, whatever, it's not acceptable. Because I'm going to tell you, my answer next year is going to be, remember the 1 point whatever million you got, and you're most likely going to put it in the fund? Take that out. Because that's money I already spent. My tax bill, again, I'm going to use round numbers. My tax bill is $6,000. I'm not going to pay the town $7,000 because I like you guys. No, I want my bill to be $5,500, not $6,000. And that's what the taxpayers are asking. That's what the older people are asking. And now, with all this extra money on the light bills, we're going to need very tight budgeting because that's not going to go away. So, and you know, what I was really, you know, so thinking of next year's budget season, and I know it's early, but my work, our year runs from November 1st till October 31st. We've been talking about budgets since March 1st. So we do it after the first quarter, we start doing our budgets. You have to start thinking ahead. But Gary brought it up during the last budget. You had that revenue in there for you line. I think it was $1 million. That $1 million may not come unless Kevin pulls another rabbit out of his hat, okay? So you might start right off the bat $1 million in revenue short.
That's $750,000 of the mill right there, just for that one item.
That's my point. So it's you really have to start really looking at things already and start dialing down. Because you're gonna have a rough year if you're gonna start, let's say you start $500,000 short, okay? That's still $500,000 short before you start anything. Who knows what the state of Connecticut's gonna do with education sharing? They cut it last year, they might cut it again next year, or they might make them whole and go back up. All I'm doing is pleading with you guys. Start looking at everything, because it's probably going to be a very, very rough budget season, and especially knowing that there was excess from this year. Thank you.
So would you say this past year was an easy budget season?
Sure. For me, not for you.
I'm Kelly.
Anyone else?
All right, thank you for allowing me to speak. I do have some things I want to bring up. First off, you do have some input to the state of Connecticut. I don't agree with what happened, but I would suggest that you consider as a whole board talking about the issue of what the state did to handcuff you and see what you can come up with for a letter back to the state of Connecticut. They don't hear from you, they're not going to think there's anything wrong. Tell them your opinion. That's my opinion, my comment on that. To Scott's comment about being 1.2 million extra, if you take a look at the end of the year budget, and someone said it during the meeting, you have $858,000 which was collected extra in revenue. That's a huge number. So, you know, good for that. So you're bringing it down a little bit from the 1.2. So, on to the item I really wanted to talk about, and that is the Board of Selectmen meeting we're going to have on Monday night, and we haven't talked about it yet, but we will, is we're looking to be able to do something which is the safest way to approach buildings which are unsafe in the town of Plainfield. We have counted up at least 4 buildings in the town of Plainfield which are unsafe, and they've been marked as such by the building inspectors. Those buildings have to come down. So we need to be doing the prudent thing, which is talking about how much it's going to cost to take them down. I'm still collecting the data as we speak, but when we do, the Board of Selectmen will talk about it, we'll vote on it, and if possibly come back to the Board of Finance and say it's possible to take some money out of the fund balance to take those buildings down safely. Any building that we take down, we'll make sure that we put a lien on the property for the value of what was taken down at, so we get the money back. So I just wanted you to be aware, it's not going to catch you off guard. This is what we'll be talking about on Monday night for the Board of Selectmen meeting. That's it.
rate in the electricity, does that affect the municipality
Yes,
too?
yes,
So,
yes,
not only residential, everything?
yes, yes.
All?
Yeah, the town will feel it, but WPCA will feel it the worst. Yeah, our sewer, yeah, yeah.
All right. At this point, if there's no other individuals that would like to address the board, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn made by Lynn, seconded by John. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained?